Welcome in, everybody, to the Radio Misfits. Look, it's James. I'm just going to be irritatingly off mic or off camera for the whole show.
Okay. How you doing? Hey, kids. Welcome to the show. How about we go ahead and put the chat window up there so you can participate by leaving chat on one of our 8 restream platforms.
Is it not married? There we go. Okay. All right. I see what you're talking
no
about.
problem.
Okay. So, happy Wednesday. Do you have the Christmas? Where do I gotta be for me to just? Because I'm like, this is my range.
Then I'll
Okay.
do this. Then we'll do
No. Well, I don't know. This is my now I look like, oh my God, do I look fat? This shirt's really big, guys. I'm not this fat. I'm not like, I look like a 300-pound guy. Hey, James, isn't that a funny radio thing? Like, you know how like when you have like radio DJs who are like 350 pounds, but their promo pictures are just their neck and up, and they happen to have a skinny face, and you're so they don't look like they're 400-pound DJs. That's a thing that used to happen.
Oh, no, that definitely happens. It has been replaced in the social consciousness by the profile pictures, whether it's on a dating app or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. That shot that's from the top, like from up here, but kind of far away, but close enough to where the head is significantly bigger than the rest of the body because of perspective. And it's always like really suspicious.
You can't really tell what's going on.
And I had a good friend of mine who was a woman of size, and I remember discovering her Instagram, and all of her pictures were framed about like this is right here. All of her pictures had a beautiful face. So I mean, she was just tricking people.
Well,
She had to know.
not tricking everybody. Hold on. I know that you resist this, but this is the era of the big girl, James. There are a lot of dudes, especially younger dudes, who are down with the big girl in a way that maybe our generation or your generation, or I don't know, what are you? Are you a millennial? What are you?
I am the youngest Gen Xer / the oldest millennial. There was a second there when they were calling millennials anyone born after 75, and I was born in 77. Then it's kind of switched to anyone born from 1980 to 1995 is the millennials. But, you know, it's always a moving target. I, in many ways, am more like millennials than Gen Xers in the fact that I spend half of my waking hours looking at my phone. I'm always jacking around on my phone. I'm always on social media. I'm always taking pictures and video and everything around me. I text while I drive. I would rather text than voice call. I mock people who leave voicemails because that is something old people do.
Fuck you.
Yeah, and that's weird because that's the divide in the Gen X, because the older Gen X leave me voicemails, but the younger Gen X do not. So I don't think the generations are appropriately delineated. I think the boundary should be more like 1972, 70.
Well, they're 15-year cohorts. That's what these generational things are, with the occasional difference for like a leap year or something. Like the one generation will be like 16 years and then the next will be 14, but they all tend to. So like I've always understood it to be, it was 65. Gen X is 65 to 80. Millennials are 80 to 95.
Yeah.
Gen Z is 95 to 2010. And then Gen Alpha is what we have now, 2010 to whatever. But my son's in that weird spot too. He's 2009. So he is the youngest of the Gen Zs, but the oldest of the Gen Alphas. So that's kind of like you. You'll sort of have your experience.
I'm the youngest Gen Xer, or maybe the oldest millennial. And it's really hard to gauge me because I'm so immature. And I don't mean
You're a
that
millennial.
it like in like a degrading way. I just mean literally. I'm immature.
You are technically part of Gen X, but no, you are absolutely a millennial. You were raised with those sensibilities, that sort of that time.
I still play video games online while talking to people.
Right.
That's not what Gen Xers do. That's what millennials do.
No, you remember. You don't remember life without cable, right? You probably always had cable.
Well, if I didn't live so far out in the country that the cable service would actually run a line out there.
Okay. So what did you have? So you had, all right. So you had 1975 TV. It just happened to be 1995 because you were.
So for a while there, we just had one channel. We got channel 7, and that was it, dude. That was for a few years. That was it, and it was a mix mash of everything. And then 56 came on, so then we got 2 channels. And then my dad went to Radio Shack and got this big tower to stick behind the
Nice.
trailer house, and it
Yeah.
had one of these array kind of like wire spokes or whatever the hell, in some funky looking fractal array, and we could turn it one way and we get the channels from Shreveport, we turn it the other way, and at night we could get the channels from Dallas.
All right, very nice. All right, maybe wasn't that
So I
bad.
played a lot of video games, and I played outside a lot, ran
It
around.
sounds like it sounds like you and me at 8 years old was probably going through the same kind of thing, because that sounds like my experience in
We were just
1977.
what, did you run around in the woods, 30 acres woods behind your house shooting varmints?
No, but I understood that I was limited in what I was able to enjoy on the TV, because I only had 3 channels. It was ABC, NBC. Nah, because I was in Chicago, so we had a whole bunch of UHF channels too. So we didn't just have the 3 big networks. We had a whole bunch of other things. But it wasn't like when cable came in, man, around about 1980. That's when cable changed my life. And it was like, wow, insane. Go ahead, James.
Okay, can I call the first topic here?
Yeah, always.
Ooh. All right, so today I learned, and I hadn't been keeping up with this very much to begin with, so sorry if you knew this before me. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, not such a great guy. I just learned this today. I mean, I don't know. I've seen him in like interviews and stuff, and he always seemed kind of like a nice guy. And I saw there was
No,
this.
never seemed like a nice guy. Well, God, I'm God. Your floor is yours. Go ahead. He's always struck me as a D-bag, a self-important, narcissistic D-bag. Not a good.
Well, I mean, kinda. You understand that you have to that job comes with a little bit of necessary swagger, and a lot of it's probably preening for the camera with a lot of these guys. But maybe this guy really is a horrible person. Like not
Yeah,
just the
James,
not just a d bag. This guy's
I would answer that by saying that Will Smith seems to have done very well not being that personality at all.
Mhm.
So, Will Smith had swagger, and
Good
he
point.
seemed like a cool guy. Puff Daddy just seemed like a jerk. But go ahead, please.
So I am sort of this has echoes of Bill Cosby, where Bill Cosby, it feels horrible to say now, but I love the guy my entire life. I read 2 of his books, and my grandmother had 2 of his books, and I read the books in her bookshelf when I was a kid. Just nothing else to do. So I had a couple of his records on vinyl. I had listened to I mean, a whole bunch of his stuff, and then to find out that he wasn't a good guy, he was not anywhere near Cliff Huxtable. He was one of the most prolific serial rapists in American history, really, when you just look at the body count. That was a horrible feeling, and like Puff Daddy's not nearly that bad, or is he? Like if he is guilty of half the stuff he's accused of, this is like awful stuff.
Well,
Are you reading all this? Are you up on this? Have you seen like this is the timeline of all the shady stuff that Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of?
yeah, absolutely. We've been covering it. Well, we stopped covering it a week ago because it's all been settled. This is all a part of the New York State law, which went into effect.
Yeah,
Uh,
another one came out
what
today,
was
dude.
Yeah.
Another one
Oh,
came.
this is another one, because here's what we've been talking about on the noon show with Diddy. Diddy set the precedent because those first rape allegations that came out that made him sound so terrible, he settled right away, and it completely disappeared. Like the story about him, everybody was talking about it for 2 days. He settled. So I've just been saying, yeah, Diddy's the guy that made sure that now everybody's got to settle, because now everybody's going to bring charges, because guess what? Diddy settled. Why won't Axl Rose settle? Why won't Al Michaels settle? I don't even know if Al Michaels been charged. I'm just throwing names out now. But
Throw my
yeah.
name in there. Yeah.
So
So,
this is the new one.
well, no, this isn't the new one, but this is the most egregious thing that I've read about him right here. Because
Now, is this one that comes from Cassidy? Is that her name?
Cassie, her name.
Cassie. Yeah.
Yeah, Cassidy's another guy. He's saying hustler. No, this is Cassie.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one says in the lawsuit, Cassie, 37, accuses her ex of allegedly, I'm sorry to say this, repeatedly raping her, physically abusing her, and forcing her to have sex with male prostitutes as he watched and masturbated in what he called a freak off. The two dated from 2007 to 2018. All right, that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, she was on this TV show, right? And then they were supposedly an item, and you know,
I,
then he dumped her.
okay, so I think that's Aubrey O'Day, who was in Danity Kane. That was another girl who was just saying, I told y'all. She's another one of those people who've, since the first one made headlines, have been part of that almost avalanche of follow ups. And this is a horrible feeling. Finding out someone is a terrible person like this, and it kind of sucks that you could be that bad and get away with it. But I don't know. There's not a but to that. It's just terrible.
Well, here's the thing that I would say about it, that you could get away with it. Well, that's been the way of the world for the last 2,000 years. Now, suddenly, now is the time that you cannot get away with it. I mean, we're all shocked. Like, come on. You didn't know these kind of things were going on. You didn't know that the casting couch was a thing. It was an ongoing bit. Everybody talked about it. Everybody joked about it. There were movies about, oh, how she slept her way to the top. And we all just went, ha ha, that's how the world is. And then suddenly, a couple of years ago, that all changed. All of a sudden, that was no longer something that was a joking matter. That was no longer something folksy, even when you talk about old Hollywood. No, suddenly it's a crime. I mean, people have been getting away with shit for a long time, apparently. And, now we're not. So, but Puff, here's what I want to know, because what I'm fascinated by with all of these cases are, who are the ones that are settling and who are the ones that are fighting, right? Because there's like been 20 big names who have been named in the last 2 weeks since the deadline to file on these New York State adult sexual abuse law, whatever, something like that. Yeah, whatever. I don't know, which is probably very important. But Puffy settled first, like immediately wrote a giant check to this Cassie girl or whoever it is. And she immediately ceased everything. She put out a statement on Instagram, and we're just going to go our own way, and we wish each other the best. I'm like, oh, wish each other the best. She literally said that. They wished each other the best after the allegations that she made against him. After, not only that, but after she supposedly suffered through what she says he did. She's wishing him the best. Isn't that interesting? Something doesn't ring true there for me.
All right. I'm not trying to say anything to get me in trouble here, but she was with him for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, something like that. What was it like?
A significant amount of time where they were a couple.
Did she cut it off after he repeatedly raped her and then made her with male prostitutes, and while he
doesn't appear so, James. It appears that it was cut off when he dumped her.
So even though it sounds like awful to us, what if she was into it, or she at least passed it off as she was into it, or she was, the argument is if she was kind of coerced into it.
See, this is very let's move
It's
on.
a minefield.
Let's move on, because the reasonable gentlemen cannot have a conversation about these things, least of all ones with our skin color. It's just that we're not allowed to do this.
Well, this isn't a race thing. This is like a man.
It doesn't. We're still white men. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. We're not allowed to have provocative opinions if we ever want to work for.
That's a good point.
The man. You currently do. Hey, we say we move on.
Yeah. It's just awful to find out a guy that you thought was a good guy probably isn't.
That's the thing. I never thought Puffy was a good guy. I always thought Puffy was shady. I always thought he seemed like kind of a con man, kind of a thing. I'm all about the business. That was always his thing. So that was like, well, he's not a gangster. Oh yeah, he is. You know who was all about the business? Lucky Luciano was all about the business. Who was all about the business? Al Capone. So don't act like that somehow makes him. All right. Let's see here. James, I want to tell you about something that I'm watching that oh God, we lost, I'm a television freak, and we lost a big one today. We lost Norman Lear, 101 years old. Norman Lear, legendary television producer, probably the most important television producer of the last 50 years. And I think we're in a golden. What are you watching now? Tell me give me a rundown. Tell me where your head's at. What are you and your wife watching? I know you got a couple of different things.
We're watching Suits.
Okay.
And we're watching Seinfeld.
Okay. All right. So okay. So you haven't gotten into any of the other things. I have nothing to watch. I've been rewatching things. Like, I got a couple episodes of John Adams going. That's going slowly. I'm rewatching The Americans. That's going slowly. It's just one episode here every couple of days, trying to keep it light. But there is nothing new. It's only shit that I've already seen that I'm like, well, I know that's really good.
Why are you doing that? There's a lot of really good stuff you haven't seen.
Well, this is a problem that I'm kind of dealing with, and that is that there's very little that interests me anymore. There's very little that I look at. I bail on things very quickly. I sample almost everything, but I bail on them and rarely go back. It is the rare thing that somehow, for some reason, connects with me. But I thought we have too much TV. Here's the thing, James. We have too much TV. This is my complaint at this point. When I was a kid growing up, there was a guide. There was a channel. It was like 152. You could go to it. You could see everything that was on. You knew your choices. You can compartmentalize that in your head. It was something that you could live with. Now for a TV connoisseur like myself, I don't know what I do not know. You know what I mean? Like, there are shows out there that are amazing, and I have no way of knowing where they are because I don't have the Chex network or whatever, like these weird ass things to this point. James, I found something that's like 2 years old, and I'm wondering if you knew about it. It is on Amazon Prime, and it appears to be a television series. It's 6 episodes. It's a documentary series. I don't know what network it aired on. It doesn't appear to be A&E or any of the normal ones. It's called, oh my God, actually the name of it escapes me, but I'll find it for you. It's a 6-part, 1 hour each episode, just immersion and history and documentation of the history of The Simpsons. And it is one of the best docu-series that I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh my God. And I look at it, it's like 2019 or something. I don't know. It was not like recent. And I got angry because I'm like, this has been out there. I'm rewatching The Wire for like the 4th time. I had no idea this is even out there. There has got to be a way. There's got to be a guide for people to know what's on. There's too much stuff. There was TV Guide before we had the TV Guide channel or whatever. All cable systems had a guide channel. There was always a TV Guide. People knew. Now it's so. Anyway, folks, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, there's the 6-part Simpsons series is just spectacular. And if you haven't seen it and you love The Simpsons, watch it. It's so interesting. So that's it. That's all. I'm just any interest in a 6-part deep dive into the history of The Simpsons?
Oh my God, yeah, that would be fantastic. Because sneakily, because they're in cartoon format, the people that do those voices keep popping up in other things, and you don't recognize them right off the bat. And I don't know, it's very sneaky how just by being around for 30 years, how rare a common thread, culturally speaking, we have had. There's nothing else that I watched when I was a kid, when I was in 7th grade, that is still coming out with new episodes, except for The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live.
It is the longest running scripted series in television history. It's amazing. And I remember episode 1. Actually, I remember before episode 1 because I remember I was a fan of the Tracy Ullman show, which is where it began. It was sort of they used to insert these little weird cartoons of this little yellow family in between sketches on the Tracy Ullman show. And that's where The Simpsons came from.
Yeah, I remember that. That was really shaky animation too. It was very Beavis and Butthead-ish. How shaky it was because the frames would go back and forth. It was fun though. I remember that.
Hold on, that's what it is. Okay. So it's a Vice thing. I'm trying to find it for you. Hold on.
So the Vice ones, The Simpsons focus of icons on Earth.
Yeah. Here, is there a trailer for that? Let's see. Isn't Vice bankrupt? Didn't they like blow all their money on cocaine and prostitutes or something?
Maybe so.
Okay.
Still probably put out a good documentary.
Care and more. Healthcare.
Here. Yeah, this is what I'm watching. And it's been around. I didn't even know. It's a thing. Okay.
The real story behind the longest running show of all time.
None of us expected the show to run very long.
Is here.
They're good writers. They just didn't want to have a girl around.
From shaky beginnings.
Scenes turned in that were drawn in ballpoint pen.
To reinventing pop culture.
The Simpsons is not a comedy. The Simpsons is a drama done by stupid people.
The most profitable show in the history of television. It comes down to a white line of meaning.
Icons unearthed. The Simpsons.
All right. Not exactly a great trailer, but whatever. It's very good. What's that?
It's got to be good. It's got to be good. Just the level of genius that is spewed out of there. Like, in New Orleans, when I was there for 15 whatever years, Harry Shearer is a guy that I crossed paths with a handful of times. And I don't know if you've ever heard what he does on the radio, but he's a really good host.
I'm a massive Harry Shearer fan.
Okay.
Yeah. I know his entire career. Harry Shearer was one of those guys that used to hang out at the Loop, that Chicago station that I came up at. I love Harry Shearer. He's a genius. So please talk about him.
All that.
He deserves all the credit in the world. But tell people who he is. He's basically every voice on The Simpsons, from Mr. Burns to. That's one of the things that they go into, James. What is happening here? I'm feeling like I screwed up.
Buzz or something?
Yeah. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. In this documentary series, they talk about how the writers and the animators used to consider it just an absolute thrill whenever they got to see Harry Shearer recording Burns and Smithers, because he does both characters. So he'll just be in the voice booth with the scripts for both Burns and Smithers, and he's just going back and forth and back and forth. And they're like, he's one of the most incredible vocalists we've ever seen. He does everybody. Hank Azaria does a lot, but he's like the glue of that show, Harry Shearer. One of the things, though, that I find most fascinating is that show was really two different groups of people who were completely isolated and who competed with one another for attention. There was the Gracie film people, who were James L. Brooks and Sam Simon. And now what they had a room full of writers, a bunch of Harvard-educated Conan O'Brien types and all that. They were just writers who were writing a story for this family. But then across town, there was this company called Classy Chupo. And they were the animators, and they were the ones that got to create the characters. And you brought it up earlier when we were talking about Tracy Ullman, how rudimentary Matt Groening's characters were. Matt Groening is a terrible artist, and his original draw. If you look at the way the Simpsons changed over the years, the way they moved, the way they look, their coloring, all of the choices from Marge's blue hair to the yellow skin, that was all made by a completely separate group. And throughout the run of The Simpsons, these two groups did not get along. Like the ones who. And here's the other thing that I found really interesting. Matt Groening did really almost nothing. Matt Groening created the character, but he doesn't write all the scripts for all the episodes the way a Seth MacFarlane does.
Right. And just to run down, because I went ahead and Googled it, in The Simpsons, the main characters that Harry Shearer voices are Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
Mr. Burns. That's just weird that Mr. Burns and Ned Flanders are the same dude. He was Dr. Hibbert, and then Smithers, Principal Skinner, Reverend Lovejoy. Those are his main characters. It's a pretty.
Those are the main recurring characters that you know every episode. But he also does like half a dozen of the whatever spare character voices they need from any episode as well.
Yeah, it's funny how they do most of the spares. Someone's got to pick it up, and they don't want to just be bringing in people off the street every 5 episodes.
So the last thing I want to say about what I'm enjoying about this Simpsons documentary series is there was this sort of 3-headed monster thing that was going on, and it was between Matt Groening, who got all the credit in the world for it because he created the characters. Oh, do you know that this was off the top of his head? The Simpsons, a multi-billion-dollar franchise now, was just off the top of his head because he was doing a character, he was doing a strip in an underground newspaper in LA, and it was making like, $20 a thing. He was living in a shack. He was writing something called Life in Hell. And one of the producers of the Tracy Ullman show liked it and said, you know what, that's what we ought to develop for our little breakers in between. And so he got a meeting with the people at Tracy Ullman who wanted to hire him. And he came in and he decided at the very last minute that he didn't want to give up the rights. He knew that Fox would take the rights to Life in Hell. He didn't want to give that up. That was his baby. So he just quickly off the top of his head invented The Simpsons and pitched that instead. And they said, okay, because he didn't want to give up Life in Hell. Turns out Matt Groening's a billionaire now because of The Simpsons. I don't think Life in Hell earned him $1.
Yeah, well, good thing he came up with The Simpsons then, because I've never heard of Life in Hell.
Yeah, well, I do, because I remember, I was a little bit older when The Simpsons debuted. I was in college, so we were all about, the cool underground history of Matt Groening and how, he was going to infiltrate network TV with his, insurgent ideas. And he did for the most part. I mean, the Simpsons are great, but those weren't his insurgent ideas. Those were the insurgent ideas of a room full of Harvard Lampoon writers, led by people like Conan O'Brien and John Vitti and Judd Apatow. No, wait, was Judd in there? I don't think so. I'm just riffing now, but it's so good. It's so interesting.
Al Franken, one of those guys?
Not one of those.
Al Franken went to Harvard, didn't he?
Yeah. And Franken was a Harvard Lampoon guy too, but no, he wasn't in the Simpsons writers' room. Anyway, it's great. If you get a chance to see it, it's on Prime. If you love that stuff, it's a really cool deep dive into the minutia, the fights, the bickering, the backstories behind great episodes. I don't know, just really interesting. And the actors, the entire cast of The Simpsons, Marge, well, actually the entire cast, I shouldn't say that, but Marge and Homer they were cast as Marge and Homer because they were already cast members of the Tracy Ullman show and they wouldn't have to be paid twice. So they wouldn't have to go out and hire another act. Because remember, these were just being used in the middle of the Tracy Ullman show. So the lead stars of these spots were thought to have been Homer and Marge. And they didn't want to go out and have to pay another actor to come in and do that when they had. So they used Dan Castellaneta and Julie, what's her name? The woman who plays Marge. I can't think of it. Anyway.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah. All right. What else you got? You got anything else?
No, go ahead.
No, well, okay. All right. Here. Let's see here. What do I have on the agenda today? Oh, James, let's do this. Would you indulge me here? You want to hear great radio? Can we listen to some absolutely amazing, great radio? I know you're a fan of great radio, the kind of honest, heartfelt. So let me give you a little backstory. Let me play something for you. So in Chicago, where I'm from, my White Sox, I've talked about my guy Jason Benetti a lot. Jason Benetti is the voice of the Chicago White Sox, and he's a dude with cerebral palsy, and he's very young. He's the youngest lead broadcaster in a major league booth in America, and he's a hometown kid. He's from the South Side of Chicago. He was, he's famous because at like 10 years old, he wrote a letter to the team saying, "One day I want to be your bro," and gosh darn it, he did it. And he became the broad, and he's terrific. If you watch sports in America, you know who he is because he's the hardest working play-by-play man in all of sports. He does college football. He does college basketball. He does women's basketball. He is, if you turn on a rando ESPN game, chances are you're hearing Jason Benetti. And he's incredibly well-respected in the industry, still very young. Well, my White Sox decided that they didn't want him to be their broadcast guy anymore. His contract came up and the Detroit Tigers offered him a shit ton of money. And he went to the White Sox and he said, "Look, because this is the team of my youth. I wrote the letter as a kid. You gave me my break. I was just a kid with a weird limp and all of this stuff. And I've been here 10 years now. But come on, do you want me?" And they were like, go. So Jason Benetti left the White Sox a couple of weeks back, crushing the soul of an entire portion of the city. This dude is so beloved. So he kind of went into hiding, and there's no hatred of him. Like, this isn't like the fans. The fans turned on the team and the ownership. We're done. We're just from a fanboy. This was, letting us down the last couple of seasons. The rebuild collapsed. That's fine. We can almost get through that. But for you to treat Jason this way, right? That was sort of the sentiment of the fan base. So finally, Jason Benetti appeared on the radio yesterday, and he appeared on The Score in Chicago, guy Parkins and Spiegel. And Jason Benetti spoke to the people of Chicago, and he spoke to the White Sox. And I want to play it because I'm probably going to sit here and cry, but it is one of the most beautiful, most authentic. Here's why the hardcore white trash Chicago White Sox fan base took to this kid, because he's our kid. You know what I mean? He's like, he's obviously, he's disabled and all of that, but he never bullshit us. You'll hear it. So listen to this. This is just some amazing radio, and I want to play it. So thank you for indulging me. Where is it? Oh, crap. Oh, sorry. Okay. This is Jason Benetti addressing why he left his dream job and all of that. Here, we'll share it.
And when I went to talk to the Tigers,
Hold on.
let me do that because I had another year left on my contract. The Tigers asked me a lot of questions about who I am. And when I went to talk to the Tigers, and the White Sox let me do that because I had another year left on my contract, the Tigers asked me a lot of questions about who I am, what I value, and what I care about in a telecast, and what I care about in a team, and a team that I want to be on with a crew. And we had an amazing one with the White Sox. You've heard me mention them a ton of times. They're fantastic people. But in the end, when I talked to the Tigers, it was a different relationship than when the starting point is they gave you a chance. And the White Sox deserve all the credit in the world. And I absolutely tore my heart in two making the decision, because Stoney and I and the whole crew threw ourselves at all the games. And Sox fans have done a lot for me in a lot of ways. But the Tigers and their aim to want to have the entire range in a telecast and the way they're building was so appealing to me. And it all comes down to the idea of the voice, where somebody hears you, and they had 8 years of stuff that they watched. It all was out there, the entirety of what I do. And they said, we want that. That is appealing to me and will be endlessly for my entire life. There were moments where I felt like there was a hope that the broadcast would be a little more traditional. Like, you know, this is not the reason I left, but just because people are interested, and it's, again, the White Sox gave me a huge opportunity and I love them, but you won't be able to find in the last 4 months of the season video of me eating on camera, because evidently I'm disgusting when I eat on camera and I wasn't supposed to anymore. Something like that is really small, but matters to me because, and that's not, again, please don't think that's the reason I left, because it's everything I said before.
Okay. Now, it took a while to get in there, James, but I wanted to get to that part, because that's what I want to talk about here. You are a creator. You've been talent. You've dealt with the consultants, and you've dealt with the program directors. And what we have here is a situation. And let me just, for those of you who don't understand, what's happening with the White Sox is the fan base is incredibly upset, because we've been in a rebuild where we spent a lot of money on a lot of people, and we are worse than we were when we began. So the fan base is incredibly upset, and we've lost faith in the management. The only thing that we truly had that we loved was the best broadcast team at the local level in all of baseball. They're fantastic. Steve Stone and Jason Benetti. Steve Stone, former player for both the Cubs and the Sox. Hey, that's some credibility. And Jason Benetti's one of us on the South Side. Jason Benetti gets fired. I mean, in a year when the fan base is just like, we're done with you people, then they just out of nowhere fire the most popular thing the organization has, which is Jason Benetti, our voice, the guy, our kid. And did you hear it at the end? What drove him off? Some middle management suit who knows absolutely nothing about talent, who told him, Jason, I know you're the most popular thing on this team, and I know that these 40,000 people in this stadium love you, but you know what? You're still just a stupid little crippled kid, and you shouldn't be eaten on the air because it's disgusting. Don't do it. That's why he left. He left because that's the level of disrespect and middle management incompetence that we face as White Sox fans and that most of us face as sports fans in general. This is that syndrome, and we've seen it in radio where there are people in sales who get jealous of the popularity or whatever of the talent, or there's people in programming, a program director who, wants to get a little mic time for himself, that whole thing. And what do they end up do? They end up fucking up the magic. Excuse my language, but that's exactly what happened here. We had a White Sox management guy who told Jason Benetti that you shouldn't be able to tell Jason Benetti anything. He's super nice. He's highly paid, and he's the most high-profile person of your team. He's the voice of your team. Told him he shouldn't eat on the radio or on the show because it's gross.
Well, I mean, he shouldn't eat on the show because it is gross, but I have a feeling like he probably didn't present it in a nice, respectful way.
It's not only that.
Tell me more then. More.
It's that there was a magic between, I said this a whole bunch of times over that. This is why I listen to every White Sox game. There was a magic between these two people that was the best talk radio show that I ever heard. Whether they were reviewing the different hot dogs from the different windows eating them, telling him not to eat on the air, that's a specific thing, but it's akin to saying you don't have creative freedom for your broadcast anymore. And that's what made it so beautiful, was that they could do anything. And Steve Stone is a former Playgirl model, Cy Young Award winning pinup, like God's gift to women type. And he's now in his 70s. And now his partner is this 35-year-old crippled kid who's 5 times as smart as he is. And for some reason, these two people became like best friends. And it was magic. And the broadcast was magic. And to chase away the guy who created the magic because some middle management suit started dabbling with what they were doing, it's disgusting. And that's why it's at the very end of that clip, because that's what Jason Benetti said that made everybody in Chicago go, oh, geez, good for the kid. He got his shot in at the end.
I got a follow up here.
Yeah.
Playgirl still a thing?
I don't think so. Are any of those still
wait. Does anyone under 30 know what Playgirl even is?
Gay. You should say anyone straight under 30, because gay men, I'm sure, because Playgirl was huge with gay men. And I wonder if it still is. I wonder if it's like a iconic gay brand. Maybe.
Was that for gay dudes or was that for chicks?
Well, theoretically it was for chicks, but
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't think lesbians ever looked at Playboy? You don't think Playboy was meant for dudes? Of course. So gay dudes were picking up Playgirl. Why wouldn't they? I would. If I was gay. If you were gay, wouldn't you have gotten Playgirl in 1980? Why not?
I'm not allowed to admit that, or I'd be gay.
No, no, you're allowed to admit that.
I'm just kidding, dude. All right. Kicker, you ready for my observational life experience segment?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So my kid Atticus, he found a glitch in the Matrix, and he stumbled upon a glitch in the Matrix. And what happened? Huh?
That's how it'll happen.
I know you don't ever do it on purpose. But so they go to the grocery store and they're each allowed to pick out a bag of chips. And so one of them gets this flavor and Monique gets the new salsa verde Doritos. And then Atticus likes the spicier ones with the black, I think it's hot barbecue. It's some new flavor. We go through the new flavors, man, because I've said on previous episodes, huge fan of the dust.
Yeah.
Because what have I said about the dust, just to loop in the new people? The Dorito is the same chip no matter what color the bag is in. It's all
corn chip.
Yeah, it's all about the dust, right? And that's the thing that delineates the Cool Ranch from the Flamin' Hot to the hot barbecue to the salsa verde to all the other just beautiful cornucopia flavors that these dust geniuses have blessed us with.
Why don't we have dust options at the store? Why can't I make Cool Ranch Dorito dusted chicken breast? Why can't I?
Well, we have done the opposite here. In the glitch, we opened Atticus's bag and it was only chip, no dust.
Oh, unforgivable.
Well, I mean, it's kind of unforgivable, but we have also been like the only civilians outside of the Frito-Lay Corporation to experience a dustless Dorito.
Yeah. What? Wait, hold on. Yeah, let's hit the brakes here. What is going on exactly? How did this occur? Was it a sealed bag?
Yeah,
Because
it was a sealed bag. I think, just in this row of chips, the last couple bags, they ran out of dust. And so it just maybe blew a little bit of air or something in there.
wow.
And we got shortchanged. And it's funny because Atticus was mad. He's like, man, we got scammed. No, man, they scammed us, dude. What do you want to do, Atticus? You want to take it back? You want to take it back to the grocery store? Tell Berkshire's I need a new bag. He's like, yeah. I'm like, no. You don't understand. We were blessed with dustless chips. We have never experienced. You couldn't buy this if you wanted to.
We are never opening this bag. We
Well,
are
it's
putting it
already
on the
open.
mantle and putting candles around it.
In fact, I might go get some because the bag's open. They're only going to last a couple days.
Oh, well, all right.
But it's really cool because now
I wouldn't eat them. I'd think there's something wrong with them. I'd be like, okay, these are not the right chips.
They're like, oh yeah, we didn't spray the flavor dust. We sprayed the anthrax on them. Sorry about that.
Oops.
Come on, dude. It's fine. It's
Also,
fine.
let me blow up your theory here, because although I can see how you would think that would be the most, yeah, I mean, I thought at first too, like obviously there's an assembly line and there's amount of dust that gets sprayed on the chips. And at some point the amount of dust runs out. And, your theory that this was, at the end of the line and they ran out of dust. I don't think that would be possible, because I imagine that this is a professional operation and these dust things are uniformed. And I imagine that they know long ahead of time. They're not going to get surprised that one of their dust bins ran out. They prepare for that stuff. They've got shifts running around the clock, making sure the dust don't run out. So here's what I think happened. I think you just got a bag that was deprived of dust because something happened. Like maybe a shooter, maybe a dude with a gun, maybe somebody pulled the fire alarm. Something got interrupted with that bag. It was not uniform because, something happened.
Richard and his wife had been split up for a while, and then they were meeting to get back together last night. And so things were actually going really well. So they went to after dinner, they went to have drinks and they got really messed up. And then in the middle of it, she started crying. And so he broke the glass table, and then he was like bleeding, and his hand was bleeding all over the place. And he had to go to the urgent care. And so they stitched him up. He got to bed at 4:30, had to wake up at 6 to be at work this morning, and he zigged when he should have zagged, and we got a dustless bag.
Yeah, but okay, so what I think happened is, let me pick it up from where you left off there. He's working a shift. He's a little hungover because they had quite the time the night before, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, Foreman Bob comes running, and he's like, hey, is this your woman out in the parking lot? She's screaming about something. And he's like, oh, geez, what does she want? And so he goes walking out there to greet her, and all of a sudden, shots fired, and somebody's pulling the alarm, and everybody's evacuating, and now the county police are coming, and that's how your bag didn't get dust.
You want me to show you the chips? I'm gonna grab the chips. I want to eat some. Hang on.
Go get some. This will be fun. I gotta go let the dog in. We're gonna abandon all of you. Maybe we'll be back. Maybe we won't. Come on, animal. Good girl. Okay. I was watching clips from the Democrat, whatever. They're all the same anyway. Watching clips from the debate. A lot of attractive women bopping around that. You had Elizabeth Vargas, you had some Vargas, you had some Megyn Kelly, and you know how I feel about the Nikki Haley. James is back. Hi, James. Just talking about the quality MILF talent on display at the final GOP debate.
I like how the GOP debate, for the first time in an election cycle I can remember, is like the Division II football playoffs.
Yes, it is. It's the NIT.
Even better. All right, so this is what it was supposed to be: sweet and tangy barbecue flavored. It's in the black bag, and you get it. And look, no dust, not a hint of dust. It tastes just like a nacho, like a regular old corn.
Just like a regular, like, you go to a restaurant, they give you a free chip. It tastes like a free chip.
That's exactly what it tastes like. A free.
That won't do. You didn't pay for a free chip. Those things are free. You're paying for the dust.
No dust
in the bag, the collection. Oh, well, I wouldn't be eating that stuff, dude. I'd think that this is a freak bag and there's something wrong with it.
Look, no dust. It's a naked corn chip.
Yeah. Again, enjoy. You got life insurance because you got a bunch of kids that are going to need to be taken care of.
No, I'm fine. Listen, you couldn't buy this if you wanted to. This is a gift, manna from heaven.
All right. Let's see. What else you got? What do you want to talk about now?
The dust wasn't enough. Hang on. There was
dust wasn't enough. I'll take it. We can do something. You want to watch a video of a drunk woman getting arrested? A drunk Karen?
Yeah, I would like to see that. But there's anyway, go ahead. Do it.
What do you got? What are you saying?
Well, there's some scabs to pick with the whole idea of the debate that was just happening.
Oh, okay.
Has this ever happened before to where there's a presumed nominee? And the answer is no. We haven't had a guy who was previously president, who is running now, who's not president, but he's still, eligible for another term. He could. We've never been presented with even with the idea of a non-consecutive presidency. That's new.
Yeah, that is new. Yeah, absolutely. We've never. I had to think about that when you said it. I had to go, wait a second. We never had a guy. I'm like, no, not someone that's lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So this primary, I mean, it kind of sucks that we're just sort of autopiloting this thing with the same two guys in a nation of 330 million people. It's the same old thing. Like, this is the best we can come up with.
This is what I don't. This is okay. So we don't like to get into politics, but this is the sport of it. Looking at it from, the middle, looking at it as a sport. Here's what I don't get. I believe from things that I've seen, I believe that Biden is incredibly vulnerable unless he goes against Trump. Like Biden gets his ass kicked by everybody but Trump. And these people are not going to get the opportunity. I don't know. I think here's who and this isn't who I like, but it's the one who I think can win. I think if Nikki Haley comes out of this and gets some kind of concerted effort behind her for 9 months of campaigning at the national level, I think she could win. I think that there are a lot of Democratic moms in suburban, blue areas adjacent to big urban centers who will vote for Nikki Haley, who would never vote for Trump and who would probably never vote for DeSantis, but they will vote for Nikki Haley. I also think there's a lot of moderates and a lot of independents that would vote for her because she doesn't seem that awful. You don't have to be embarrassed saying I voted for her. James?
Sort of agree.
This is not an endorsement. I'm like I said, I'm looking at this like a sporting event. Like if I was a gambler, like what do I think is, which horse do I think has a chance and why?
I just think that this whole two-party system is about to birth a third party. And I
hope so. I hope you're right. And then I hope a fourth and fifth.
I don't want it to supplant either party. I want there to be three parties. Because they're not all pulling in the same direction. Like, I don't know. There's I think these two parties have way too much in common. It's
Wall Street.
Right.
That's what they have in common.
Feels like I don't really have a choice. Like they're both voting for these terrible deficits. They both love funding the wars of wherever that they both agree on.
And you know what? I shouldn't just say Wall Street because Israel too. Really, there is no difference between these parties. James is absolutely right. And I really did think that it would be this election cycle where we might see a viable third party rise up. It seemed like there was smart money interested in that kind of thing. And there were a lot of candidates who could have been interested for such a thing, but it didn't happen. Why don't you think that happened? Why aren't we looking at a viable rise of a third party this election?
Because people are already just so calcified to either team red or team blue that they just don't consider it because they don't, because I'm told by my liberal friends a vote for a third party is a vote for Trump. I'm told by my conservative friends a vote for a third party is a vote for Biden.
Nah, yeah, but that's like that's the insignificant third party that we've become accustomed to popping up.
Well, once you have that mindset, that's just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But somebody, I mean, and again, I'm just coming up with a stupid name here, but who could be like super popular? I don't know, but if there was a legitimate third party that didn't seem fly by night, that didn't seem like it, was going to not be around in 2 years, I think that this would have been the election cycle to see that rise, and we didn't see
Right.
it.
I agree there. Did you see a libertarian actually won the presidency of Argentina?
Well, yeah, I did in Argentina. I did. We talked about it. Yes, we did. And cool. Let's see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Let's see if he can even get any of his stuff enacted.
Well, I'll tell you this about that dude. I gave him a lot of props on the High Noon show last week because of what he did with the Falklands on day one, and that was absolutely brilliant. He knows the temperature of the room, right? So the Falkland Islands situation is Falkland Islands are right off Argentina. Argentina wants them to be a part of their country, but the Brits have been claiming it now for like 100 and something years. A couple of years back, 30 years or so, there was a war. No, maybe more, maybe 40 years. There was a war where the Falkland Islands the Argentinian government tried to take the Falkland Islands back from the Brits. I think this is where Prince Andrew won his military awards, but there was a war and England kicked the holy crap out of Argentina for Falkland Islands. And so England's been owning them since. And there's been no discussion of it. However, this dude comes into office. One of his campaign things was, I'm going to get to the Falkland Islands back. And everybody's like, nobody's thought about that in 40 years. It's just a foregone conclusion that we fought a war, we lost, and Britain's got it. But what he knows is in this anti-colonialism era, there is no way that if he demands the Falkland Islands be given back to Argentina, that England will go to war over it. So he can't lose. And guess what? On day one, he said, yes, I would like to discuss the Falkland Islands with the British government. And the British government immediately said, we've done a lot of thinking since the War of 1982. And I think now is the time for us to come together. He looks like a genius. Not because of his skill as a negotiator or anything, but because he read the room. He knew that there was no way that England in 2023 could defend still owning the Falkland, right? I mean,
it's a tiny island
brilliant.
chain with like 35,000 people and about the same amount of sheep on it.
That's really smart. And that's the kind of smart shit that gets a guy that nobody gave any credit to, who nobody ever heard of, from the Libertarian Party, the presidency of Argentina.
All right, can I do the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Time Magazine Person of the Year, Taylor Swift.
Love it.
Good to see her finally getting some attention.
Yeah, right. It's good. It's good when the kids recognize an up and comer.
Is she Person of the Year? Kind of. I mean, who else would it be?
This is a tricky question, and again, we talked about it on the High Noon show today. This is a tricky question because what construct are we subscribing to that the time of the year is? And notice it can be time person, time man, time thing, time movement. Over the course of time in this award, it has been everything from the American Fighting Spirits is the time person of the year, or the personal computer. 2015, you were the time person of the year for the YouTube generation, right?
So lame, yeah.
However, for the first 10 years of time, it was important people. You had your Gandhis and your FDRs and your Churchills and, these real heady people.
Hitler and Stalin and Mao and...
Yes, absolutely. All of those guys. And then, throughout the last couple of years, it's been, the associated cast of characters, Zelensky, Obama, Trump, Kamala Harris, that Taylor Swift is the first time in the history of the award that it has gone to an entertainer. So that's why people are like, huh?
Is it?
Yes, it is the first time. Now, I think it was 2005. In 2005, the Time Person of the Year was a group called The Guardians. The Guardians was a group that consisted of Bono and Melinda Gates and Bill Gates, and it was these people that like donated all of this money, but it was not an individual. So that was as close as we came in 2005. But this year, it's just Taylor Swift. So I just think idiocracy. I mean, that's what we're doing, right?
What does the non-English speaking world think of that? We're just stupid.
I think they're thinking what I'm thinking is that the Time magazine doesn't mean shit anymore. The Time magazine is not. See, we're holding Time magazine to a standard that maybe we grew up with, where there was some legitimacy to it. And all of those people are dead, man. All those people that made the Time magazine that had any credibility are long gone. I don't know who's running it now, but they made Taylor Swift Person of the Year. So, Your Honor, I rest my case.
Yeah, and think of how many retweets they'll get if they make her the Person of the Year.
There you go.
Very active army.
So then one asks themselves, what is the mission of Time magazine? Is it to garner the most retweets on something that gets people bugging? Or is it to inform the public about the important matters of the day? Because it doesn't seem like that's what Taylor Swift is representing. It just doesn't.
Here's the argument. Jennifer says, she's a dang billionaire. She's doing more than just entertaining.
That is not in dispute. But is she doing more than a whole bunch of other people around the world whose names we don't know, whose music we don't hum along to, who are just, out there sweeping minefields and stuff? I don't know. I don't know. She is a high profile individual, but she is not worthy of what my understanding as a Gen Xer of what the Time Person of the Year was supposed to mean. Now, I'll tell you what, if she wins People Magazine Sexiest Woman Alive, she will do something I don't think anybody's ever done, which is win the Time Person of the Year and the Sexiest Person Alive. Wow. Look at Taylor, glass ceilings and whatnot.
Okay, so here's the other argument on the other side of Jennifer, and thank you for volunteering I'm not attacking you here, but who, if not Taylor, then who? All right. Well, there was a crew. This would be my nomination. There was a crew on the International Space Station that was able to make a more accurate replica of a knee meniscus. The cartilage, the flat cartilage in your knee between the thigh bone and the leg bone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it in, almost zero gravity, then the way that the polymer settles better replicates the form of a human cell. And so they have been able to say, well, you know what? We have sort of one of the first commercial uses of something to be done on International Space Station. It doesn't have to be done on International Space Station. You can go put your own lab up there. You get Elon to put it up there for you, and you can have your own little meniscus making factory floating around in orbit up there. And it's something that is bringing medicine big leaps forward, because something like 14 to 18% of all Americans will tear their meniscus at some point in their 80s plus year life. And so this is
So, but did they introduce Travis Kelce to America's 14-year-old girls? No.
They didn't sell out American Airlines.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
They did. Did they make girls in Utah suddenly start wearing Kansas City Chief gear? No, that's what Taylor Swift did.
Well, her latest round of Grammy nominations, this will be the 7th time. This is a record-breaking 7th time she would have Record of the Year.
So I've got a list here of the other people who she beat. Do you want to see the list of people who she beat? The short list, as they say. Mm-hmm. Because it's a fair question. Well, if not Taylor, then who? Well, I don't know. A whole lot of people. How about Xi Jinping? Chinese President Xi Jinping entered 2023 a few months into his unprecedented third term, solidifying his role as one of China's most powerful modern leaders. Xi has been on the Time 100 list, which honors the 100 most influential figures more than 10 times. He has also been a runner-up for Time's 2000 Person of the Year. All right. So Xi Jinping, more significant to the globe than Taylor Swift, James?
Yeah, but that could be any year. And Taylor's really peaking this year.
It's true. This is
Xi Jinping probably could sell out the AT&T stadium, though.
what this really shows us is how good high-priced publicists are, because Taylor Swift's publicist got her Times Person of the Year. And it is really, that's who we should truly be in awe of. That's who the Person of the Year should be. Taylor Swift's publicist, who got her named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. That's, whoo. Sam Altman, James. Sam Altman was also on Time's shortlist for Person of the Year. Now remember, what's that?
Do I even know this name?
Yeah, FTC. He's the Bitcoin huckster who basically collapsed the entire.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, is that? Oh, then who is Sam Altman? Who is Sam? I know Sam Altman. In the past few weeks alone, Sam Altman has made countless headlines for his departure and Swift. That's it. He's the open chat GPT guy. He's like the forefront of the AI stuff. All right. Is he more important than Taylor Swift in 2023?
I mean, future generations will say so, but right now it's kind of hard to.
Hey, I don't know what AI is going to become in 100 years, but I can tell you that I never heard it or knew what it was until 2023. So if he's the guy behind it, this is the year that I learned that that's a thing. Still don't get it, but. All right, James, ready? Here's another one. Boy, if you think people were upset about Taylor Swift, imagine had Time Magazine named Barbie their Person of the Year. Yeah.
Don't put them past it, and for the exact same reasons, they'll get retweets and clicks and social media hits, and they'll make a ton of money off of just the traffic.
How about Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin has a cause for real, James. More impactful on the world in 2023 than Taylor Swift.
Yeah, definitely more impactful on the world, but
certainly more impactful on the Donetsk region than Taylor Swift. I don't think she tours there at all.
The Donbass. So the problem with Vladimir Putin, same with Xi Jinping, could be every year. He could be any year, every year. Plus, last year it was Zelensky, and so what are you going to do? Just hog the thing for 2 years in a row over the same little intra-Soviet conflict?
Yeah, okay, James. All right, so we're sticking. This is like the meeting they had. So far, James, we're sticking with Taylor because you've knocked everyone down.
Yeah, trying to see both sides. Just trying to see both sides.
James, here's a good one. This might be the one that I'd have advocated for, because this will get you clicks, because it's also sort of in the entertainment thing, but also you could claim it as like a piece of legitimate world history, and that is King Charles III. The ascension of King Charles, no longer Queen Elizabeth. Times Person of the Year, King Charles III. You can make the case, James.
What did he do?
Well, he didn't do anything, but it is,
okay.
Because
all he did was like his mom died. That's
yeah.
He didn't do anything. And I am so dismissive and just outright mocking of the idea of nobility and royal family, and you have a king. Oh, that's great. You have like knights and squires too. You eat at medieval times.
Well, let me ask you something, because I don't disagree with you on that at all. I am fascinated by all that, but I don't disagree with your belief there. I'm an American. I believe in liberty, and I'm monarchy is akin to tyranny. So, however, I totally forgot what I was just going to say because I got distracted by a pop-up. God, I'm so simple.
Something
all right, can I keep going?
Prince Charles III ascending to the throne.
Yeah, that's not important. It's just okay. Yes, here's what I would say about that, James. All right, if they had named him King Charles III, if they had named him the Person of the Year, don't you think there'd be more conversations of the kind that you just offered? And don't you think that's something that might, further your want of the end of monarchies? You name them. Now we're all talking about it. All right, moving on. Jerome Powell is the next one. And you know what? No, I'm tired of making rock stars out of our money, guys. So I don't want Jerome Powell. These people should not be famous.
Jerome Powell has overseen the greatest inflation of most of our lifetimes. And no, he's done a horrible job. He's an idiot. His speeches make him sound even dumber. And I can't put one thumbtack on an accomplishment of Jerome Powell.
All right, so here's who I might say. Here's who I might say they could have gone with instead of Taylor Swift. Maybe King Charles. You can make that case to me. Maybe. Oh! I skipped one. Sorry. Trump prosecutors. Woo! Well, if we're talking about history, we got to see how this plays out. But these could be extremely significant historic figures. They put a president behind bars, they're going to make movies about them for the next 50 years.
Right, because it's I don't know. I always feel it's an amazing coincidence that the first 77 years of the dude's life, not a criminal. Then in the last 6 months after that, 91 charges. 4 different jurisdictions.
Really? It's crazy that dudes got sloppy once the spotlight got super turned up on him. Once we started looking at everything. And by the way, all of these Trump company shit that he's going through with the the illegal the insurance fraud and all that kind of stuff. That's stuff that goes back 30 years, James. So there you go. There's
the spotlight had been on him for 6 years.
No, not like this. He was a clown. He was a guy we all laughed at because he was an entertainment figure. He was silly and not to be taken serious.
I know, but then he ran for president. Then he got the nomination. Then he was president, and then
they started looking at it. And then they started going.
After he reannounced he's running again.
All right, bye everybody. That's the end of the show. We're 10:08 in. He's James. I'm Pugs. We do this every Monday through Friday. James, plug your Florida stories.
Yeah, go check out Florida Stories. I actually put up some new episodes after taking about a month off, and I have a bunch in the can. So I'm going to put out 4 in the next 2 weeks too. So
the way to do it. The kid knows how to do it. All right, I'm going to go in the other room and I'm going to watch some Simpsons. We don't have a closing theme anymore, so this is me saying to you, James, suck it. Oh, you beat me.